Good afternoon and welcome into Two-Man Game here on ClaimsOnline.com. We talk a little basketball a few times a week. I'm Matthew Roccio. That's Bob Ramsey. Before we dive into an NBA-centric episode of the podcast, Rammer, how you doing today?
Doing very well. Excited to be talking hoops. It's cold outside, and it's time thinking about being indoors with arenas and hoops all over America.
Exactly, and I'm lucky enough to be in for the first time in my young life in an NBA arena to watch an NBA game this weekend. Recording this podcast a little bit early, you'll be watching it on Friday, right a few hours before I'm on my way to go watch the Pistons and the Sacramento Kings for the first time. It's going to be a blast. I'm very excited. And in honor of that, we're going to have a big old NBA-centric episode. Well, let's dive into something a little bit more topical. Let's dive into last night. It was the big game. It was the Pacers and the Warriors. Through 30 minutes of time on the floor for Steph Curry, he had 38 points on just 19 shots from the field. The Warriors had gotten out to a lead in the third quarter, but then a left shoulder injury that has now been diagnosed to knock Steph Curry out for a little bit of time occurred. He was knocked out of the game, and the Pacers stormed back. They dropped the Warriors below 500 again this season at 14-15. They are now 2-13 in those always crucial road games. And right now, it does not look good for the Warriors going forward without Stephen Curry.
Did you see what Curry's injury was specifically? For those who don't know, here on Claims Online, I do a podcast with the great Dr. Rick Lehman, one of the great orthopedists in America. He's the orthopedic surgeon for U.S. Track and Field. But because I do that show, I think I'm a doctor. So did you? I knew he got hurt, but I didn't see. Was it a dislocated shoulder? Was it a separation? Was it a?
This doesn't.
That's all right.
I'm going to try to find it for you. It does not. It's not requiring a surgery, and so
I'm going to give him 4 to 6 weeks.
Quote unquote a few weeks.
4 to 6 weeks.
Yes.
Are you okay with that? Me making that diagnosis?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, 4 to 6 weeks, he'll be back.
Subluxation.
Yeah, so I wonder if he caught an elbow or hit somebody, and
he reached in
the back. Yeah,
he reached in to rip a ball out from Jalen Duran. As Jalen Duran was crashing towards the rim, Curry was kind of stationary off the block, and he reached in, and it kind of got pulled back a little bit like this.
So if he wasn't in such great shape and so strong, he doesn't get credit for his physical strength, but he's really strong and in unbelievable shape. It probably would have ripped it out of socket.
Yeah, probably. So it'll be a few weeks for Stephen Curry, and obviously with the Warriors struggling already, that's going to be a problem. I actually want to dive right into the Pacers because they're a perfect little point I wanted to make here for two reasons. One, them playing the Warriors is perfect, but two, everyone is going to start throwing out Miles Turner as a trade chip because it's December, it's Christmas time, and that's the annual tradition in the NBA as it has been for the last 3 years. But at the same time, Tyrese Haliburton is absolutely killing it this year. He is leading the league in assists, and he's one of only 4 players with an assist percentage, which are the assists that happens when he's on the court of his total team assists. He's one of only 4 players in the league with an assist percentage over 40%. His is at 49%, which means when he is out on the floor, he is assisting on almost just under a hair under half of the buckets that his team scores, period. Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Trae Young are the only other players in the NBA above 40% along him. So Tyrese Haliburton's killing.
Explain that stat again.
It's the percentage of baskets that you assist when your team, the percentage of baskets that your team scores that you assist when you are on the floor.
What's the difference in that and assists?
Well, because that's just the total amount of assists. Whereas if your team has 50 assists in a game and you have 10 of them, well, then it's gonna be different than if your team has 50 assists and you have 18 of them. And it's just a slight. It's just
how important you are in the overall offense.
Yeah, and it's a rate statistic. It's just saying, the guy when he's out there, it's a thing where he's not hunting for assists. He's also not playing a huge amount of minutes where there'd be other guys like Russell Westbrook in some of his top seasons where he was a little bit lower in the percentage, but he was higher in the total assists because he played a lot of minutes. He got the total numbers, but he wasn't always the biggest part of his team's assist rate and things like that. Mm-hmm. So it's just Tyrese Haliburton's a monster passing the ball. But I do have to wonder if there's a move coming for the Pacers. They're 15-14, and the East is the tougher conference this year. It's kind of shifted that way. I threw this out on Twitter the other day, and I'm going to throw it out to you a little bit. James Wiseman is having so many troubles with the Golden State Warriors, but the Golden State Warriors are built because they're, we talk about the luxury tax going on in baseball right now. There's also another team on the other side of the country that's going to have to pay about $400 million in cash for their roster. That's the Golden State Warriors because of luxury tax payments. So they want to win now. Miles Turner guards the rim, and he hits threes this year at a 46% clip for a guy who's usually about a 38% three-point shooter. So he's taking to a new level as a three-point shooter as well. He's still one of the better rim protectors in the entire league. You give them a former second overall pick and a first-round pick in the future. Maybe you lottery protect a second first-round pick and throw that into the draft as well to try to get Miles Turner. I think that's something we could see for the Warriors. But again, it shifted one more time, probably really the third time in 3 years, where the Pacers are right on that edge where it's like, well, I don't know, we might have something here we want to build with. Maybe we don't move Miles Turner. But right now, there's no team that could use him more than the team he just helped beat, the Golden State Warriors.
So I think the first key to trying to figure out if that's realistic is where do the Pacers think they're going, and how does he fit in to that look to the future? And what do they think about it? If they think we're going to get better, we're moving forward, and he's a key piece, or we still think we're 2 or 3, let's say 2 seasons away, we can move him and we think we can find another piece like that, but get better in other areas. That's what I don't know.
Yeah, they got Benedict Mathurin this year, and he's scoring at a great clip. So, the thought process might be, we have Tyrese Haliburton blowing up. We have our shooting guard wing star, and we have our big man. Let's just roll with it. But, this is a team that at different times has prepared to trade Miles Turner. It seems like they drafted, Goga Bitadze at the end of the first round a couple of years ago. They've put a lot of free agency. They got Jalen Smith from the Suns after they cast him off, and he was looking really good last year. So it's really interesting to see what they might do going forward. For me, I just think it's a trade that works out for both. And again, I just think having Tyrese Haliburton play as well as he is, it's kind of complicating things for the Pacers. But again, their own moves have been complicating things for about 3 or 4 seasons now.
Yeah, I will always defer to you on any of those things like that in the NBA. But for me, I'm probably thinking too much like a fan. If I were a Pacers fan, I'm saying, no, let's keep adding to what we have. Let's don't subtract. Let's don't keep doing rolling over to the future. Let's try and get there now. And then if we don't, add a piece. And then if we don't add a piece, but to keep rolling it over, like rolling over a coach's contract. Let's don't keep rolling this over for the next one. Let's do something now. Again, that may be too much like a fan thinking.
Again, they got Mathurin, they got Haliburton. They're building something there. Speaking of some games from last night, Rammer, you had your interest piqued by a very interesting game. It probably went under the radar of a lot of people. It's 2 below 500 teams in opposite conferences. The Miami Heat and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Heat down by 8 going into the fourth quarter against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They were back in the fourth in an away game without Jimmy Butler to get a big win. Obviously, a lot of credit goes to Tyler Hero, one of his better games of the season, 35 points on 23 shots from the field. But a really interesting win there for the Heat, considering how they've struggled and without Jimmy Butler.
What I'm learning about this season, and from the beginning, and I'm not sure when this will end as we get close to the playoffs. But for now, the only games that matter, the only wins and losses that matter to me are road wins and home losses. Home losses are a kick in the ass, and road wins are huge. And double wins when you're missing one of your regular / stars. In this case, Jimmy Butler. How do I mean it as a double win? Let me make a baseball reference, and an old one at that. Tony La Russa used to be criticized, Cardinal baseball manager, if you're not a baseball fan, for often day games after night games that frequently were Thursdays or Sundays, playing all of his bench guys. What are you doing? We're trying to win games and all that. he understood that. He also understood that his regulars needed rest. He also understood that his bench guys needed playing time so that they could perform at a high level off the bench. And his belief was if the scrubs got a win, he called it a double win because the actual win that went in the standings, but then the extra time he bought the regulars, he counted that as a win. And I think winning like Miami did last night, that's a double win. Winning on the road, which is huge in today's game, and doing it without a star. I think that's as good a win as you can get in the league right now.
Absolutely. Let's change topics a little bit here. We're going to talk about two defensive players.
Wait. Oh. I can't, I got a sore shoulder. Can you do that for me?
Yeah, I'll pat you on the back on that one. That was pretty good.
On the fact that some national guys stealing my stuff.
Oh yeah, of course. Sorry.
I know some of the national people are watching Claves online and stealing my bits.
Thank you for not letting me pass this up. So Justin Tinsley was on, was on Around the Horn on Thursday afternoon, and I was watching that actually right before we recorded this podcast. And they were talking about the Golden State Warriors, and he said something that I thought was beautiful. It was perfect. It was so poetic, and I was like, it sounds familiar. It was a little passing comment, and he said there's only two things that matter in the NBA, and the first one he said was road wins. And I was like, well, he stole that from Bob Ramsey, obviously.
Thank you, Rocc. Now, either he's a hack and stealing my stuff, or two really brilliant guys.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. He's a producer and a writer on one of the 30 for 30 podcasts about Nipsey Hussle's untimely death and how it really reverberated across the NBA. Really fascinating writer, and the fact that he said that, I was like, well, I'm bringing that up because Rammer and him are lock stop. It's 100% true, and it's why even if the Warriors were to rip off some wins here with Stephen Curry, until they start winning some road games, I don't really care right now.
You can't, and that's where the expectations. That's when you start to learn about a team.
Rammer, we've talked a lot about the Memphis Grizzlies here. Well, our boy, my boy especially, Jaren Jackson Jr., I call him 3J. For some reason, no one else has taken that nickname. It bothers me. J3 even too would work. J3 works. His number's 13. Fine, J3. He's back for the Memphis Grizzlies. He's played 11 games of their last 12. They are 8-3 in those 11 games that he's played. And he's come right out of the gate. He's averaging over 3 blocks per game. He's playing under 30 minutes. And the big thing was Monday night, 8 blocks in 24 minutes for Jaren Jackson. Wow. Everything we talked about with him across the last year's podcast, too many fouls, not stepping up in the big games, having trouble against some of the better big men in the league when he had to face up against them. Those are going away this year. Again, it's only a small sample size of 11 games. It's why if you look at the leaderboard in the NBA, he's not tops in blocks, because he doesn't qualify for it yet, but he would be, and shouts to Kevin O'Connor at the Ringer for this one, he would be the first player in NBA history to ever average over 3 blocks while playing under 30 minutes per game. But Memphis does rotate a lot, so he might keep that 30 minutes per game going throughout the regular season. What he's done to add to the Grizzlies on the defensive side, combining with Steven Adams to pretty much at any point, you're either going to get destroyed by the best offensive rebounder in the game on one side, or you're going to get destroyed by the best shot blocker in the game on the other side. And then when you look at the fact that they haven't had a healthy Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks just came back from a little bit. John Morant has been banged up at times this season. It's impressive that they are where they are, but I also think it tells that they have a much higher ceiling if Jackson can continue playing like this defensively.
Well, yeah, Jackson is a key piece, 100% agreement, but don't gloss over the loss of Desmond Bane.
Yeah, it's been huge.
They're winning. Jackson's picked up that slack. They've almost kind of swapped out. When Bane comes back, that's a really, really dangerous group. Very dangerous.
And also I want to give a shout out to a graduate of Jeff City High School, who was inexplicably not recruited by Mizzou, something that I will one day, I think, get over. Probably not. And that is Toronto Raptors forward OG Anunoby. He is leading the league in steals, and he's an absolute terror right now. He's one of the, if not the best perimeter defender in the league. Marcus Smart and Mikal Bridges still have an argument for that title, but nonetheless, he's also averaging just under 20 points at 19 points per game. He stepped up in a huge, huge way for the Toronto Raptors. I had him on my list this year as as potentially one of the most improved players in the league. I think right now he certainly is in the top 3 for that running, and I love the fact that a Missouri kid is killing it right now in the NBA. And I mean, he's a terror. He's 6'9". He's got about 7'2" wingspan. He can guard pretty much 2 through 5, and if you're guarding 2 through 4, he's ripping and going the other way. He's an absolute monster right now for the Raptors. Not the same Raptors team of years past. They're not nearly as good as they have been, but they are one of the few teams in the NBA right now with a losing record despite having a net rating and a net point differential. So there could be something breaking well for them. For a healthy Fred VanVleet, continued offensive development from OG. Maybe this is a playoff team. If not, though, we're watching the development of a local kid becoming one of the best defensive stoppers in the entire league.
Yeah, I'm always, since in St. Louis, obviously we don't have a team, I'm always looking for reasons to root for a particular club. Sometimes it's style, sometimes it's stars, sometimes it's just being a hot team. But players and watched grow are from your area. Mm-hmm. But Fred VanVleet is I saw him play a number of times at Wichita State. Just a remarkable player, and I really, really pull for the kid. I wondered his size. Was it going to translate to the league? And he's just been very,
so. It was, for him, he's one of those guys where the big question for him was, could he ever take the offensive load of a 1? As a guy who played more 2, despite being built like a 1, he was going to need to be able to offensively dribble the ball up the court and not get it and not be phased by consistently running and initiating an NBA offense. And he's done that, and you see where he's gone from there. We're going to wrap up here in just a few minutes, Rammer, but I do want to say again, I'm so excited because a little bit later today, I'm going to be actually not in this apartment. I'm going to be in a completely different city. I'm going to be in Detroit, just a few hours away from going to my first ever NBA game. I'm going to the Detroit Pistons facing off against the Sacramento Kings. Unfortunately, the Detroit Pistons did just get some bad news. Cade Cunningham, their first overall pick from 2 years ago, is out for the rest of the season. One bright spot is I still do get to see some more St. Louis kind of blood, if you will. Jaden Ivey has started almost every game that he has been played so far for the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, the son of Niele Ivey and of Corey Azu and Notre Dame fame. So getting to watch him in person is going to be cool. But honestly, if you haven't realized that the Sacramento Kings team is one of the more fun teams in the NBA, this is kind of my way of standing on a soapbox and screaming about it. Because here's the thing. They might be legitimately good a year from now. Mike Brown is the head coach. If you remember Mike Brown, he was the head coach of a couple different teams, obviously the Cleveland Cavaliers. The big question for him has always been offense. He's a great defensive coach. In fact, a lot of people are saying him leaving the Golden State Warriors might be one of the reasons they are struggled this year. And right out of the gate, he's orchestrated one of the best offenses in the entire league. They are 6th in the league in three-point attempts and three-point makes. They're 4th in the league in field goal percentage from the field total. They are the best and most efficient two-point team in the entire league. 5th in assists. Just every offensive stat you throw out there for the Sacramento Kings is good. And again, they have one of the best schematic defensive coaches in the league. So that's going to start trending well. Domantas Sabonis, 17, 12, and 6. I love this. I'm so happy I get to see him because it's hilarious that when he came out, he's like, I'm not my dad. My dad was this incredible passing big man. I'm not my dad. I'm a different kind of big man. And then by his 6th year in the league, he's averaging almost 7 assists per game as a big man. It's like, listen, man, you might want to go against your blood, but sometimes the apple does not fall far from the tree. You are Arvydas Sabonis' son. And it's cool for me because Arvydas Sabonis is one of the first stories that I caught on to when I was a young NBA fan. He'd already retired, but just the story of that Portland Trailblazers team kind of got me looking back at the history of the game, seeing that's incredible. But then obviously just the fun team we're getting to see. De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter takes 7 threes per game, hits them at a 41% clip. Harrison Barnes, Malik Monk's on that team now. He takes 6-7 threes per game, hits them at a good clip. And then one of my favorite rookies from this past year, I talked about him in my top 5 Rookie of the Year candidates, Keegan Murray out of Iowa, providing a little offense. I said that right. That's an Iowa player providing offense. It's basketball, not football. He's doing great for them. He's taking about 6 threes per game, hitting 36%. He's growing as well. It really is top 6 one of the best offensive young teams. Problem is their bench sucks. But again, this is a complete rebuild by Mike Brown and this organization, and I'm legitimately happy I get to see them. And overall, just getting to see an NBA game. I remember Rammer. I'm not trying to be bragging. This is just the absolute height of my ability to be honest and braggy at the same time. I was like a sophomore in college, and I'd lost a bunch of weight, and I was playing just a crap ton of basketball, and I was able to like grab rim and hang. But I have tiny hands. I have tiny hands, and so I was never going to be able to dunk. And I obsessed about it for days. I was like, I can hang on to rim. Why can't I dunk? My girlfriend at the time was like, "Why do you care so much? Why is it such a big deal?" And I was like,
she's not your girlfriend anymore, I hope.
No. This is
the last straw, I hope.
It was not the last straw.
She doesn't understand you at your core.
It should have been the last straw, but that I was just thinking about that moment when I was thinking about why I was what was I excited about to watch this game. And that's the thing is like she didn't understand that there's something so just flippin' pure about that moment, and to get to see it in person at the highest level. And my current girlfriend understands my love of basketball, and she got us some incredible seats for the game. And so I'm going to be fairly close. And so to get to see, and De'Aaron Fox just rim runs it like 5 times a game because he's so damn fast. So I'm going to see a couple of them. So just get to see that live for the first time. I'm just so damn excited about that. The atmosphere, just everything about it. I used to be the kind of person who loved watching sports on television because I didn't have to deal with fans, and I was like, I get a better view of it. I was an ignorant little child when I said that. The view of the game when you get every piece, every little tertiary variable in the crowd, on the sidelines, from the coach, when guys are checking in, like the littlest things that never show up on television unless you're watching every little bit of it. Those little things and getting to pick them up for the first time ever in that atmosphere, I couldn't be more excited about it. I'm excited to tweet out and kind of send out my feelings about throughout the game and what I'm feeling before and afterwards. Please follow me if you haven't. Rocc ESPN. Follow Rammer too, Rammer SDL on Twitter. I'm gonna be tweeting about it. We always tweet out the podcast link, by the way. So I'm just so jacked about it, Rammer. I know you've been to a few NBA games in your day. Anything about the experience when you think back on it, to maybe the last one you saw, or maybe the first time you remember going, that kind of stands out to you?
You're right about TV not doing it justice. In particular, I think the NBA, when you're there in person and you, especially if you've got good seats and you can feel the size, power, and athleticism.
That's been the whole thing.
Not unlike going to an NFL practice and being right on the sideline.
Okay.
And seeing the linemen crushing against each other like huge boulders, the awesome power that exudes. It's very similar in the NBA. Speed, power, athleticism up close. It's an amazing dynamic.
And this is why I'm also so excited. First of all, one point. Awesome use of the word awesome. Most people don't use it in that context enough. I appreciated that. But secondarily, I will never forget, I don't think, the first time I ever went down to the field for a Mizzou game. And I was lucky enough that it was Mizzou, Alabama. And I stood right there on the line of scrimmage and looked down the barrel at just the Alabama defensive line and the Mizzou offensive line, and saw him go. I'll never forget those 3 or 4 second moments of just seeing the height of athleticism of a sport I absolutely love play out in front of me. That, and again, I'm never going to forget it. There's going to be multiple moments in this game that just hit me in a moment where I'm like, this is why I don't just love basketball, why I love sports. And anytime you can look forward to a moment and know I'm going to lock a moment in my brain away that's never going to go away, it's hard not to be pretty excited for it. So I'm pretty jacked.
You're talking about a player doing a run out. You'll see something amazing like somebody blocking a dunk or something that'll just be freak athleticism, and it'll blow you away. You absolutely will love it.
All right, Rammer. So I'm going to miss, unfortunately, SLU's matchup this weekend. So everybody, take my place down at Chaffetz Arena. They're going to be facing off against Drake. It's a 7 p.m. tip-off. Rammer, where can people get tickets for the Billikens game?
9774 SLU. 977-4SLU.
I love that we just need like a button like on your shoulder, just like Rammer, play this promo.
That's exactly right.
Speaking of that, Rammer, play Royal Banks of Missouri promo.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that in a second. First, I just wanted, for the record, best I could ever do was about like that on the rim.
Okay.
You could grab it. I could get just that first row of knuckles over. So you got me beat.
Again, tiny, tiny hands.
And here's the other thing that people like your ex-girlfriend don't get, and even some players. When we see a big go for a layup, if I could dunk,
yeah, right.
Why would you ever do anything else?
Right? I'm sorry. If I could dunk, I would literally find every excuse I could find to go to blacktops, get into a pickup game, and then lock eyes with the point guard. Lock eyes with the point guard. And yeah, exactly. And just no one sees it coming, and you just jump over. Like, how can there be any cooler feeling than that?
There isn't.
I'm sure hitting a home run feels incredible, but the everyday ability of just like, that's got to be the coolest feeling in the world. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know why. If we were talking earlier on the show today about Justin Gage, the Mizzou wide receiver and basketball player. Listen, made a lot of money playing football. I get why he made the decision. At the same time, why would you ever choose to go play football when you can just at any time in your life be like, and just go over and I don't get it. It's I'll never be able to do it. And I had come to terms with that until we had this conversation, remember? That's
funny. Have a great trip and enjoy the game. Can't wait to hear your report.
Absolutely. We'll talk about it a little more next week when I get back. We'll also talk a lot about that that St. Louis and Drake game from Saturday. Yeah. Before we go, Rammer, though, tell everybody about Royal Banks of Missouri.
Royal Banks of Missouri, 60 years in St. Louis proper, but also in the last few years, St. Charles. Two branches in Illinois and 3 now in Northeast Missouri. They're all Royal Banks, and it all means great service. 314-212-1500, Royal Banks of Missouri.
Once again, Billikens facing off against Drake, 7 p.m. at Chaffetz Arena. Rammer, I will talk to you next week. Have a great day. Have a great game. St. Louis, have a great day.
As one of St. Louis's largest veteran-owned companies, St. Louis Acura knows what it means to serve. As we head into the holiday season, St. Louis Acura is collecting Toys for Tots for the United States Marine Corps and a clothing drive for local military charities and churches. Each donation can earn a gift from our boutique or a discount on a vehicle service or car wash. Please help us help others this holiday season, and thank you for helping St. Louis Acura become one of the area's top 50 fastest-growing businesses for 2021.